It is no debate in discussing about the success of Souls-like and Elden Ring in particular. These games are cultural phenomena that remain in the collective conscience for many years after their release. When other game releases come and go, being relegated to oblivion after a single month, every FromSoft game remains ingrained in the mind of its players, still generating interest after months and even years from their initial release. These games are like the gift that keeps on giving. This is because beating the game is not the finality of a FromSoft title. The relief felt after the final battle brings a moment of cathartic joy that abruptly ends with a question in almost all Souls games players' mind. What did I just do? As is in so many other aspects of life, ending a journey is just the beginning of another. For me personally, finishing a FromSoft game is followed by hundreds upon hundreds hours of lore dives and theory video consumption. So it was during a fateful night, with a smoked down horn scent video in the background as I was preparing to sleep when it hit me. I got the biggest knot in my stomach, my sentiment of dreariness 100% disappeared, and a cold sweat started to run down my spine. It clicked. As scientists try to famously find a theory of everything, I have just figured out the full lore of Elden Ring. I have just solved Elden Ring. I spent the whole night thinking about plot holes in this theory and to dismantle it, but the more I thought, the more it made more sense. Holy mother of fingers, I have just figured out the true story behind the FromSoft game. Never thought I would be doing a lore video, as there are hundreds upon hundreds on this platform, with the production value and vocabulary much better than mine, but this theory forced me. It needs to be heard. So this video is about Elden Ring, Marika, Ascension to godhood, the betrayal, and the true history and mythos of the lands between. And what better way to start everything than from the beginning? All there is came from the Great One, and then came fractures and births and souls. But the greater will made a mistake. Torment, despair, affliction, every sin and every curse, everyone born of the mistake. The creation myth, paralleled with our own Big Bang, is considered the inception of the Elden Ring universe, resulting in the formation of all organic and inorganic matter. It is from this primordial fracture that the lands between and all its inhabitants hail from. As Count Ymir aptly puts it, long ago we began as stardust, born of a great rupture far across the skies. However, between the mortal and the one great, this world has another plane of existence. A plane of ununderstood celestial beings that exercise their influence in the lands between, fighting endlessly over the dominion with the current iteration of the world dominated by the outer god of order. It is through their avatars, miracles and the fate mortals invest in them, from which their presence is shown. From the confirmed to the speculated ones, I believe there are 6 distinct gods residing in the outer limits of the cosmos. These are as follow: the god of order associated with the greater will, the present governing force of the world, manifested through everything golden, from the hue and illumination of the earth tree, to the color of their miracles, and their practical use with the earthly avatar in the form of a golden boy, loved by all, known to do no wrong, who was able to turn foe into friend. The formless mother, the mother of truth, or the bloodstar, closely tied to thorns, wounds and those afflicted by cursed blood, with an avatar of large proportions that spreads her influence with the goal of creating a new dynasty. The god of wrath, characterized by the circle of life and rebirth, a scarlet transforming god represented by the blade herself, the blade of Miquella, the one who tasted no defeat. God of the finite, represented by the twin birds, passage to the afterlife, and the black flame, with an avatar in the world occupied by a certain Glomite queen, with a fondness to destined death. The unnamed ancient dragon god connected to Placidusax, the Elden Lord, who rests in an arena beyond time, the only place in which an artifact of an ageless, ever-young avatar can be activated. And the fell god with a dormant power strong enough to burn the earth tree, mirrored by a certain abyssal serpent with an essence so potent as to do the same thing to the shadow tree. In case the connection was not already made, every child of Marika is inextricably linked to the influence and power of an outer god. None of her children are cursed, rather they are blessed, becoming the worldly incarnation of the deities from the cosmos. Drawing these parallels, a point can be made that Marika the Shattered with her demigod children are a microcosm represented by the fractured one and all its outer gods offshoots. Before discussing how all this happened, let's divest ourselves of doubt and see if the theory of demigod-outer god connection holds any water, starting with the white sheep of the family himself, Godwyn the Golden. Born of Marika and Godfrey's reunion, this child of the god is the only one with no apparent flaws or curses. Unlike his kin that were all blemished, he seems to be the only true heir to the Golden Order cult, his lineage being aptly named the Golden One. His depiction, appearance, and stories about his deeds makes it clear without a shadow of a doubt that throughout all the characters found in the lands between, Godwyn is the true avatar of the Golden Order and the human representation of order and everything golden. First represented by the Scorpion, then by Romina, the Saint of the Bud. The latest iteration of the outer god of Rot, Avatar, is occupied by yet another Marika child in the form of Melania, Blade of Miquella. Born with an ever-rotting body and professed to bloom with the equivalence of an atomic bomb, Melania's existence is irrefutably connected to the meddlings of this ancient sealed god. The god of the twin birds, wielding the black flame set to burn the bodies of the deceased and take their souls to the afterlife, is also wielded by the Glowmite Queen and her apostles. Now, the information released in the DLC all but confirms Melina's status as the sister of Mesmer and daughter of Marika. She and her brother both bore visions of fire and were both swiftly eliminated by their own mother. The tattoo of bird talons, reminiscent of the death birds, from her closed eye coupled with the color of said eye and her affinity to destined death, makes her the best candidate for the position of the Glowmite Queen and as the avatar of the god of the twin birds. And now for the nitty-gritty. This is the first true revelation the video brings. The unnamed ancient dragon god that fled the world long ago and for which Placidusax is still waiting is the god of time. Arguments made for this statement are manifold. Farum Azula's location outside time, floating in mid-air in a never-ending day, ability of his subjects, the ancient dragons of immortality, and Placidusax's arena confounded in a temporal anomaly. All this point to the missing god's connection to time and its power over it. And who else is intrinsically connected to immortality and the effects of the passing of time, or rather lack of? Another of Marika's kin in the form of Miquella. Connections can be further drawn, and Placidusax Arena is the only place where Miquella's needle can be used. It was speculated in the past that the reasoning behind it is because the meddling of outer gods can only be stopped in this place beyond time, but I would argue that the true reason is the proximity of the god Miquella represents that allows the full usage of this artifact. Being the avatar of the god of time, it comes as no surprise to state that this power is more potent when close to the deity itself. The next outer god, being the Formless Mother, is represented by Mog and his great dynasty. That could not be questioned as it is clearly stated in the game. Now, from the whole video essay, this is the part that can be most easily disputed, as I would also add Morgoth here as another less obvious avatar of this god. The argument raised is that during his boss fight, after reaching 50% health, the Omen King can also tap into his dormant powers of the cursed blood and use it against the Tarnished. I know it is a short stretch, but I fully admit that this is the only small incongruence to the rest of the fully argumented thesis. And lastly, it is time for the Abyssal Serpent and Mesmer's Flame. In order to draw this connection, we will study Marika's actions after ascending to godhood. At the inception of the Earth Tree, first thing done by Marika was to build herself an army and start her crusade, eliminating those that could potentially threat the tree and the new order. The victims of this purge were located in the mountaintops, being the giants worshipping the forge. Marika knew that the power of the forge was the only thing that could burn her new empire, so she made sure that this would not happen by wiping out an entire civilization. Unfortunately for her, the flame could not be fully extinguished, so she cursed the last giant to ever stay guard at the forge. After her conquest, she got the realization that her firstborn son bore visions of fire, and he too possesses the power of the flame. With this dawning on her, first action was to seal the power of the serpent behind an eye of grace. But that still wasn't enough for Mesmer, as he still possessed this most sacrilegious power, the power to burn down the tree. Knowing this, Marika did what any good mother would do and sent her son in the lands of shadow to eradicate her old enemies, the Hornsent, and then used her godly powers to seal these lands away in order to fully eliminate the danger of the flame. As always, Mother of the Year. This connection between the Abyssal Serpent and the Fire Giants are even discussed in the wiki, where it states, it is also the reason why Mesmer was sealed in the lands of shadow. It is not known if the fire powers that Mesmer possesses are due to the serpent or if he just had those since birth. The only other character that possesses power over flame like this are the Fire Giants and Melina. I would argue against the Melina argument, as she does not have control over the flame as Mesmer, and she is used only as kindling rather than a source of the flame. Another point to lean on are the serpentine motifs found on the outer layer of the Forge of the Giants. This could be tied to the Abyssal Serpent, drawing more connections between the unknown fell god and Mesmer. This is iffy, but just food for thought. With the theory laid out that Marika is a microcosm of the One Great and her children are all connected to the outer gods, it is time to discuss how we got here. Until the DLC, these questions had little to no answer, but with the newly added content, everything can be explained. For this, we need to understand the concept of the Crucible and the concept of jarification practiced by the Hornsent. I promised that when it all said and done, most of the mysteries surrounding Marika and Marika's ascension will be answered. The primordial crucible was the initial matter in which all life was blended together and the prior form of the earth tree. This is not dissimilar to the One Great from which all life and souls erupted. My argument is that the primordial crucible was a shard of the One Great or something of that nature that fell on the lands between, creating all life. All life spawned from the crucible, like all life spawned from the One Great. The similarities between them are fairly obvious to spot. Furthermore, the DLC expansion brings more information that there were multiple crucibles, unlike the primordial one that kickstarted evolution and the natural processes of life. I theorize that these crucibles are man-made. I bring proof of the divine gate where Marika and now Mikola ascended. This is a crucible. The Hornsent were a civilization obsessed with reaching divinity. The whole purpose of its culture and actions were to find ways to elevate themselves. This is shown by their rituals and architecture, with buildings stretching up in spiral form until the heavens. Stacking of bodies clearly reaches the desired effect in creating an artifact of immense power, strong enough to commune with the cosmos and ascend their state of being. But they did not manage to achieve this as they were missing something, a hidden ingredient they did not possess. They missed the spark and nature of the One Great. As postulated earlier, the One Great is the source of all existence in the universe, this meaning both the mortal and the outer god layer. By constructing a crucible, the mortal factor of this equation was achieved, but they were still missing the divine. This is where jarification and Marika comes in. FromSoft introduced the concept of jar saints and jarification for a reason. It is not known for them to introduce parts in the lore that do not ultimately connect to the baseline story of the game universe. So the theory is, finding the shaman people and their properties of blending life together, they decided to create a saint by mixing in parts of the divine, hence why these beings are referred as saints. Marika was the only success they had, elevating her to this new state of being. Where in the base game we have all avatars of the outer gods as Marika's children, here we have individual avatars of these gods from whom the Hornsent might have got the necessary ingredients to put into jars. There is Romina as the avatar of Rot, the deathbird in the Cerulean coast, the worshippers of the formless mother, most ancient dragons as ingredients for the god of time, and of course the mysterious shed skin of the snake next to the bony village, where the jarification occurred that when mixed together with the skinless shaman that assimilates it, can create the closest man-made being resembling a deity. Marika was taken from the village, stripped of her skin and thrown in a jar with all necessary ingredients mixed together. She took all these conflicting powers, assimilated them, put them into order in her body and became the first and only jar saint. A mini reconstitution of the One Great. With this power she used the crucible to open the divine gate and combine both mortal and divine, reaching full godhood. This is why the Hornsent see her as a traitor, as it was to their practices that she was elevated, and because of that and their culture they see Marika's retribution as unjust. They hoped for praise rather than full-on genocide. But as things formed, they have to splinter and then fall apart. Through births, we can see every aspect of the true god and every aspect of Marika in the form of Mesmer as the fell god, Melania as the god of wrath, Mikola as the god of time, Melina as the god of the twin birds, Morgoth and Mog as the formless mother, and Godwyn as the god of order. And when all aspects were born, she shattered like the one great, repeating history again. If you got until here, you clearly noticed that any information about Radagon and the Frenzied Flame has been omitted from this video. They all tie into this, but that is the story of another video. If you'd like us to make a video tying all these factors together, please leave a like and subscribe, as it really helps us, and hopefully see you in the next one.